They say when you're tired, your mind plays tricks on you. That the shadows in the corner aren't real. That the creaks in the floorboards are just the building settling. That's what I used to believe, until I moved into room 207. I had just started my new job as a nurse at a mid-sized hospital on the edge of the city. It wasn't a glamorous place, more like one of those forgotten by time institutions. Cracked tiles, flickering lights, and the night shifts. Oh man, the night shifts were a special kind of hell. Since my home was almost an hour away, I figured I'd save time and rent a cheap room close to work. That's how I ended up in a narrow aging boarding house just a few blocks from the hospital. The rent was dirt cheap and I didn't ask why. I was assigned room 207, second floor, far end of the hallway. When I first moved in, the landlady gave me a weird look. "You work night shifts?" she asked. "Yeah," I replied, slinging my backpack over my shoulder. She stared at me for a second too long before forcing a smile. "Well, don't forget to keep your lights on at night." Okay, weird. But I brushed it off. Maybe she was just a quirky old lady. The hallway to my room was lined with buzzing fluorescent lights, most of them too dim or flickering like they were struggling to stay alive. Room 207 was at the very end, past a window that overlooked a dark alley filled with vines and trash bins. I unlocked the door. The room was plain but spacious. 2 beds, a creaky wardrobe, a desk, and a tiny window that looked out onto the alley. I was supposed to share it with someone, but no one else had moved in yet. Fine by me. That first night I was dead tired from my shift and passed out almost immediately. At around 2 a.m., I woke up shivering. The fan was on, but the chill felt unnatural, like the air itself had turned solid. Then I heard it. A soft knock, not on the door. Inside. I sat up, confused. The knock came again, from the wardrobe. It creaked slightly, like something inside was adjusting its weight. I stared at it for a long minute, my heart thumping. It didn't open, it didn't move. I convinced myself it was just the wind and went back to sleep. Over the next few nights, things escalated. My clothes would shift in the wardrobe. A cold spot formed near the foot of my bed. I began waking up at exactly 2 a.m. every single night. Once I heard whispering from the bathroom sink, like someone gargling words that weren't meant for human ears. Another time, I caught a glimpse of long black hair disappearing into the wardrobe mirror as I turned around. I even installed a small night cam on my desk. But it never recorded anything unusual, just me tossing and turning in bed, visibly stressed. I thought I was losing it, so I started sleeping at the hospital's break room. That helped, for a while. One night after a double shift, I had no choice but to return to room 207. My body was on the verge of collapse. It was raining heavily. Lightning lit up the alley outside. I dragged my feet into the room, drenched and freezing. I dried off, changed, and slipped into bed, telling myself to ignore the wardrobe. I even double-jammed the door shut with newspapers and a chair in front of it. At 2 a.m., I woke up. The chair was moved. The wardrobe was slightly open. A voice whispered from within, "Are you still awake?" The voice was female, software raspy, too close. My heart stopped. I stared at the wardrobe. I hadn't opened it. I was sure. The newspapers I jammed in the gap were now torn, scattered on the floor. The air inside the room felt heavier, like it had been filled with smoke, though there was none. I whispered, "Who's there?" Silence. Then, the wardrobe door slowly creaked open. From the shadows, something began to emerge. First a hand, pale, bony fingers with cracked nails. Then the unmistakable curtain of long black hair, soaked and clinging to a gaunt face that wasn't entirely visible. She was crawling out, not stepping, crawling, like a spider. Each movement stiff, jerky, unnatural. Her head tilted sideways, slowly, then upside down like it had no bones. Her black eyes stared at me from under that veil of hair. And then, without a sound, she vanished. I leapt from the bed and turned on every light in the room. I was shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. I dialed the landlady. No answer. I texted my coworker. "I think there's someone in my room. I swear to God, I just saw something come out of the wardrobe." No reply. I didn't sleep that night. The light stayed on until morning. The next day, I took a leave from work and visited a local antique bookstore to find something, anything, on the history of that boarding house. A hunched old man behind the counter raised an eyebrow when I mentioned the address. "Room 207, he muttered. "Oh, people used to call that the morning room." I asked why. He handed me a yellowed article clipped from a decades-old newspaper. The headline read, "Nurse found dead in boarding house. Suspected suicide after night shifts." It was dated 1987. Her name was Evelyn. She was 26, worked the graveyard shift at the same hospital, overworked, alone. Neighbors said they heard screaming the night before she was found hanging inside the wardrobe of room 207. They found claw marks on the inside of the wardrobe door, as if she tried to escape after tying the rope. The police closed the case quickly. Back in my room that night, I couldn't stop shaking. The name Evelyn kept echoing in my head. I locked the wardrobe, taped it shut, stacked furniture against it, just in case. At 2 a.m. again, I woke up, but not in bed. I was standing in front of the wardrobe, with one hand on the handle. The tape had peeled off. The furniture had moved. I backed away in horror. I had no memory of getting out of bed. Behind me, I heard a whisper, "It's your turn now." I spun around. No one. But in the reflection of the wardrobe's mirror, I saw her. Her pale face behind my shoulder, her eyes black voids, her mouth wide open in an eternal scream. I stopped going to work. Sleep became impossible. When I did close my eyes, I'd wake up in different parts of the room, once even outside the building at 3 a.m., barefoot and freezing. I started losing time. I'd blink and hours were gone. I'd find notes in my own handwriting that I didn't remember writing. "Let her in. She just wants company. Open the wardrobe." I changed the lock, burned the notes, moved my bed across the room. Nothing worked. Each night, like clockwork, 2 a.m. would come, and so would she. One night, I set up my phone camera and left it recording while I slept. The footage made my blood run cold. At exactly 2 a.m., my body sat up in bed, eyes wide open. I walked to the wardrobe, removed the tape, and opened it. Then I just stood there, still, for hours. Behind me in the grainy corner of the video, her shadow moved. And she was getting closer. By the end of the footage, I was staring directly at the camera, smiling. But I didn't remember any of it. Desperate, I begged the landlord to let me change rooms. He said all the rooms were full. When I asked about Evelyn, he paused. Then he said, "You're not the first to ask." I wasn't eating. I barely recognized my face in the mirror anymore. Sunken eyes, pale skin, that same empty stare from the camera. But the worst part wasn't seeing her. It was becoming her. I decided to end it. I boarded up the wardrobe, nailed it shut. I lit candles, played a recording of prayers I remembered from childhood, anything to bring warmth back to that ice-cold room. And I spoke to her. "Evelyn," I said, "you don't have to be here anymore. You're not alone. You're not forgotten." For a moment, nothing happened. I thought maybe, just maybe, it was over. Then every candle went out. The mirror cracked. The walls bled black, and a voice, right in my ear, "Then take my place." I woke up on the floor, my body shaking violently. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Someone was inside me. In the cracked mirror, I saw her reflection, but it was my body, my face. Only the eyes were different. A few weeks later, new tenants arrived. Room 207 had finally been vacated. They found my phone. The last recording was just 2 minutes long. It showed me standing motionless in front of the wardrobe, and then slowly turning to face the camera with a wide, unnatural smile. The timestamp read 2 a.m.